conjunction with Biz Talk Today TV and CrossCheck Media. Welcome everyone to Buy, Hold, Sell. I am your trader Todd Schoenberger, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Tobin Smith out in sunny and very, very hot Scottsdale, Arizona.
Toby, 10 degrees less hot today than it was 2 days ago, trust me.
There you go.
Where I could have extracted lithium out of my backyard, it was so hot.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing up lithium because I have a great guest for us because you are the expert when it comes to this type of technology, especially advanced technology. And we have the best guest that's out there right now, Teague Egan. He is the CEO, founder, and product architect of a company called EnergyX. And he's joining us today from Austin, Texas. Welcome to Buy, Hold, Sell, Teague.
What's up, gentlemen? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Hey, you're right in time because SpaceX is now going to move to Austin too. So
that's right.
We got Tesla here already. So
yeah. Well, he just came on the telly this morning and says we're getting out of Torrance, California. We're going to go to freaking Austin.
Taxes are too high there. Come to Texas.
Yeah,
well,
yes, exactly.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And we will talk about that because I know you also have a location in Florida, which is also another tax-friendly state, but that's a whole other issue. But Teague, I got to ask, I mean, you are in the lithium market. You are actually making lithium better because of your technology that your company is creating. How do you get started with such a thing? Because this is a big deal. I know you went to USC's business school, and I'd imagine you had dreams.
Oh, okay. That's great. See ya.
There you go.
UCLA Bruin here.
Fight on,
I had to throw that in there. I had to throw it in there, Toby. I tell you. But Teague, tell us how you got started.
Yeah, I mean, we got into lithium before most. I started EnergyX back in 2018, so 6 years ago. And this is when lithium wasn't sexy like it is today.
Oh yeah, it's dead sexy now.
Yeah, now it's sexy, right? Nobody was really thinking that far up the supply chain in terms of the electric vehicle transition. And, I saw that as a huge supply-demand gap. If the whole world, and at least the United States, was going to transition to electric vehicles, lithium was the main bottleneck or limiting factor. And that's what we needed more of in order to make that transition happen.
Okay. Hey, Teague, obviously the IRA Act helped a lot in terms of lithium or any other battery metals that are native to North America, not that Mexico stuff, but to Canada and the United States. You'll get into your technology, as I shared with you before the show. I'm an investor in a company called Lithium Bank that goes into brine up in Calgary. And what's intriguing about that now is that people are finally realizing, and again, let's just say this is part of the Trump trade now. I'm starting to say that, Todd. It only took like 3 days. That if everything's going to have to be American and anything from China is going to be tariffed, then you're in a pretty sweet spot.
Yeah, I'm friends with the guys at Lithium Bank. That's a good resource up in Canada. So we started the company initially making technology that could extract lithium from brine.
Oh, really?
Brine is salty lithium water, essentially, much more efficiently than the conventional way. So the conventional way is they build these big evaporation ponds. Like if you've ever flown into San Francisco, you see those salt ponds.
Right.
In the airport. And the sun evaporates the water, and then the salt that's in the water will crash out or precipitate out. And lithium is one of those salts. And they have these elaborate pond systems that do that. What EnergyX invented is called direct lithium extraction, where you can basically just take that salty brine, of which lithium is one of the salts, and put it through a 21st century separation or extraction technology, like a membrane or solvent extraction or adsorption, and get your lithium directly. So we invented that, and that's what we've been working on developing for the past 6 years. And now we're vertically integrating and building our own projects. So Lithium Bank is up in Canada. There's a lot of other good lithium deposits, one of which is in Texas and Arkansas in the Smackover.
Are you talking rock or are you talking brine?
Brine.
Brine, okay.
Yeah, we only do brine right now.
Okay, beautiful.
Brine is the bigger global deposit. There's obviously hard rock too. But then we also focus down in South America, in Chile and Argentina. And you mentioned the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act. Chile is actually an IRA compliant country because the United States has a free trade agreement with Chile.
Right.
We're focused on Chile in addition to US deposits.
Okay. So we're gonna do a good cop, bad cop thing here, Teague. Or actually, in other words, we're gonna talk about the really good questions or the really smart questions. They'll come from Toby. I'm gonna be the novice here. I'm gonna ask the basic questions. I know Toby's gonna make fun of me, and that's fine, but it's good for the audience.
He's so sensitive. To Teague, just go sensitive on him. His ego is like a balloon with a hammer over it. I mean, it's
so
sad
here's the first question I have for you, Teague. You're talking about brine. I get lithium as an element. Can you explain that maybe in layman's terms that maybe the audience, a guy driving a pickup truck in the Midwest would understand?
Yeah, brine is just a fancy word for water with salt in it. That's
right.
it.
You know the term briny water? Have you never heard that before?
Never heard of it. No.
There's no briny water in Buffalo. Trust me, there's no briny water in freaking Buffalo.
So ocean water is the lowest kind of level that you might consider brine. It's not really considered brine, but ocean water has about 3.5% salt in it. Okay. Then you think about the Great Salt Lake in Utah, right? That's a little bit more salty. That's about 9% salt. And this is just salt that's dissolved in. Like if you put salt in your water and stir it up, it'll dissolve, right?
Okay.
Still there. It hasn't disappeared, right? That salt is sodium chloride. Lithium is Li as opposed to sodium, which is Na. The salt ponds that we deal with in South America and the brines can get up to 30% salt dissolved in that water. And then lithium is a small fraction of that you have to separate out amongst all the other salts, which we consider impurities.
Well, why don't you go into also the difference? I mean, the difference between the last time I was in Chile, we were looking at two different rock places, and they went through the process with me, and then they showed how much time, money, effort, energy it would take to actually get the rocks pulverized to the point where you could actually process it. Versus brine, where you take it out of the freaking land and you put it through your machine, and out the end comes high-grade lithium, right? You guys are doing the good stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we chose brine over hard rock. So hard rock, you're exactly right. You're digging up huge swaths of earth. You need huge like dump trucks and
caterpillars.
Caterpillars to do this stuff. It's very CapEx intensive. It's very environmentally unfriendly. You're emitting a lot of CO2. You're destroying the earth.
And it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, hydrometallurgical process to do that is very intense. With brine, you drill a well, right? So you have to do that, but that's not that hard, and it doesn't take up a lot of land to do. So you go down, you bring up the water, right? And in some of these places, it's actually pretty shallow, like say the Great Salt Lake. And then it goes through the system, you extract the lithium, and then you put it right back down into the ground so you're not disturbing the environment.
That's
makes
genius.
sense. Now, are you also working in the Salton Sea on any of those projects in California?
So I'm also friends with all those
since
guys.
You're an SC guy, you should at least be working the Salton Sea.
I'm friends with all those guys out in the Salton Sea. That's another U.S. lithium deposit that people have a lot of hope for. We ultimately chose to work in the Smackover, which is Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, for our US-based lithium project. But I have high hopes that the Salton Sea will also produce a lot of lithium.
Sure. And what do you think of the Exxon deal in Arkansas? They spent a whole bunch of money.
That's great for us. That's great for us. It just basically validates everything that we've been working on for the past 6 years. That one of the biggest companies in the world that basically does very similar things in terms of bringing up subsurface liquid and refining it on the surface to create a finished product is going into the exact spot that we've been looking at and are also pursuing. It'll create more investment. Exxon's not the only oil and gas company, right? And there's a lot of other ones that are looking at who to partner with. And EnergyX is a great company that is looking for partners like Exxon or other oil and gas companies. We also can license our technology to companies like Exxon. Exxon's not developing their own technology.
Right.
They acquired the land. They're looking to partner with people who have technology, and we've developed that. So there's a lot of ways to work with Exxon, and it's just a great thing that Exxon is going heavy into lithium.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there's also, you have POSCO that it wants to, get big into lithium. You have other South Korean companies who make the batteries, who, the chemical companies are sending huge tankers out to bring back lithium because they don't have, shockingly in South Korea, they don't have any native lithium, and yet they're the largest manufacturer with China for batteries. So sorry, Todd, I know you had an interesting question.
So Toby, this is a perfect example of you being the expert. Most people don't know POSCO, and they actually can get it confused with Costco.
Costco, you're right.
But for those that are
you can get some really, really good Korean food at the POSCO cafeteria, which I've been to, but it's not $1.50 Costco hot dog. Okay.
Those of us that are in the battery world and battery supply chain world know of POSCO, and POSCO is a force to be reckoned with. And that POSCO is actually also one of EnergyX's investors. So,
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, one of our major investors. So for those of you that don't know POSCO, it is actually the third largest steel maker in the entire world. They do about $50 billion of revenue a year from steel. And they're also the first or second largest cathode maker. Cathode is one of the components in a battery in which lithium goes into. So POSCO obviously needs to procure a lot of lithium to go into their cathodes. And they're building a 100,000-ton plant in Argentina. They have huge cathode production facilities around the world, including in Canada, which is why they're interested in Lithium Bank. And POSCO has a joint venture with General Motors, who's also an EnergyX investor, to make cathode for General Motors and their supply chain. So POSCO is one of our investors. They're looking at our technology, some of our projects, and we're very grateful to have them on board.
Wow. Well, the DLE technology, as you know better than anybody, has come from basically ground zero, shooting up the Mount Everest to get to where you're at now. So where do you have active plants? I mean, you have investors in this. And let me ask the Lithium Bank question. How come Lithium Bank didn't choose Lithium for their processing unit? I'll tell you why. Because they bought one in Korea and shipped it over. That's why it was already existing.
So let me preface to say that today there actually is no commercial direct lithium extraction plant or DLE plant. And the idea of DLE or direct lithium extraction only started some 6 years ago. And to develop an industrial technology like this takes a long time, not only for us, but for anybody else. Like there's big companies that are working on it, but it's slowly evolving and it's nearing commercialization. So for EnergyX, we have deployed pilot plants. We're in the process of building demonstration plants, which are much larger pilot plants, one step before commercial plants. And then we go to full commercialization.
And what's your timetable?
So we'll be in full commercialization, hopefully by 2027. And I think that, in the context of buy, hold, sell, this is, did I say that right? Or is it?
Yes, you did.
Buy, hold, sell, right?
You're a new buy, hold, sell contributor. So yes, absolutely.
This is obviously you want to get in early, right? So once, my father always told me this analogy, like you can't catch if you're a surfer, you can't catch the wave once it's crashing on top of you, right? You need to start paddling when it's 50 meters back so that by the time it catches up, and that's where lithium is, right? Once there's commercial plants, it's too late. Like if Exxon has already invested hundreds of millions, like it's getting there, right? There's still time to get in, but you need to invest now so that, it's too late to get into NVIDIA, right? Like it's far too late, right? but lithium is just starting to get going with the electric vehicle transition. So, that's how I think about it.
You are right about that. The global market right now is valued at last year was valued at 22 billion. This year it's looking at a valuation of 26 billion. And by 2032, it's going to be up to $134 billion. Truly remarkable. And when you start looking at things like the Paris Agreement that are worldwide, you can only think that demand is just going to explode worldwide, which makes your company, it sounds like you guys are right there in front. And the rest of everyone else is in the rearview mirror. So that's good
Yeah,
news.
exactly, Todd. I mean, you talk about where it is today at 20 something billion and where it's going in the 2030s, which is only 6 years away, up into the 130 billion. I mean, I think we were talking about earlier, that's a 22% compound annual growth rate, or CAGR. And that is literally unheard of for any sort of mineral or natural commodity.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Teague, so where does the sodium chloride battery and the no graphite batteries? Volkswagen just put $150 million into a battery company this last week that doesn't require graphite to be the other side of the technology. Do you don't care as long as they use lithium? You're fine.
Yeah. So graphite is on the anode side, and we talked about the cathode side, right? And now companies are trying to make better batteries that maybe don't use graphite or use some sort of next generation. Silicone is kind of a next generation anode. But the good thing for us is that lithium is the common denominator. It doesn't matter if you use graphite or silicone. It doesn't matter if it's an LFP, which is an iron-based battery, or NMC, which is a nickel-based battery. They all use lithium. So the more batteries that are made, the more investment that Volkswagen makes into these companies, the better for the lithium suppliers.
Well, we definitely want to talk about that, and we're gonna finish out this block because there's a couple of things. I want to talk about the growth prospects as far as the products that we're looking at and where you guys are really specializing in, but also how can people invest, and we'll get into all of that after the break, because today with us we have Teague Egan. He is the founder, CEO, and product architect over at EnergyX. And he's down in Austin, Texas, and he is going to be with us right back after the break. Please stay with us.
Buy, hold, sell, brought to you by CrossCheck Management.
Watch 13 Wham News anywhere on any device with Stir. Download the Stir app and choose Rochester. You get local news and more than 20 other TV channels. And the best part? It's free. Go to your app store and download Stir today.
Welcome back to Buy, Hold, Sell. Well, with Toby and I today, we have a very special guest, Teague Egan. He is the CEO and founder and product architect for a company named EnergyX, and he's joining us today from Austin, Texas. And when we left off in the last break with you, Teague, we were talking about how people might be wanting to invest with your company. You have some big names there. General Motors is involved. That's huge. I mean, I'd imagine a lot of startups would love to have that kind of a brand name. That's right. Yeah. All these great tech companies that are clearly cornering the market of lithium, which is an exploding market. But tell everyone, how can people actually invest in your company?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, let me just say that we're extremely grateful and honored to have people like General Motors, people like POSCO, people like ENI. ENI is one of the world's largest oil and gas companies in Europe, internationally. And
Italian, molto Italian.
The pasta.
Sí.
We've also looked at how we can get the general public involved in EnergyX. Like, my personal view is it shouldn't be the good old boys clubs or the venture capitalists that have access to these exciting high growth startups like EnergyX. So what we've done is every time that we go raise money from groups like General Motors or POSCO or ENI, we also do equity crowdfunding, retail offerings where we let the general public invest into EnergyX. And this is a somewhat new thing, but it's regulated by the SEC. And literally anybody can go on to energyx.com and click invest. And it's a simple 5-step process. And they can invest as little as $1,000 into EnergyX.
So because it's crowdsourcing, Teague, they don't have to be an accredited investor like a private placement?
No, they don't. So if you're an accredited investor, you can invest more of your net worth. But if you're non-accredited, you can still invest, but there's limits. You can't invest like more than 5 or 10% of your net worth, things like that. Like there's rules to protect non-accredited investors, but literally anybody can invest as little as $1,000 into EnergyX.
Wow. So what do you get for that though? Is it you get a share of the company? I mean, what
Yeah,
do you get?
you get shares in EnergyX. And you know, we started doing this relatively early in the company's life cycle, as early as I think 2000. So we started this 2 years after we started the company. And the people that first invested have now over 10x their money in EnergyX to where the share price is today. Now,
where the most recent funding valuation was.
Exactly. Now I have to say, EnergyX is still a private company, so it's not like we're on an exchange. It is an illiquid investment, and you may never get your investment back because we have to go public or we have to be acquired, things like that. But you know, in the event that that does happen, and I hope that we're on the way to that, the people that invested early are set to make a really big return.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best uses of crowdfunding I've ever seen. I mean, as opposed to crowdfunding, you know, a backwards baseball cap with Oogle eyes on it, to be able to, you know, get into a company, a technology company like yours, which then begs the question, when is it all licensing revenues or do you get processing revenue? What's the business model?
Yeah. So we started out just making technology, and our plan was to license that technology to groups like Exxon that are getting into lithium, groups that already are in lithium that want a better way to extract the lithium. I mentioned earlier in the last segment, the evaporation ponds, which is the conventional method, to this new 21st century technology method. So licensing will be a big part of our business model. However, we said, look, we now believe that we have the best lithium extraction technology in the market. And the real money is in owning the assets or the resources and producing lithium ourselves. So what we've done is we've gone out and acquired our first lithium resource down in Chile. We acquired 90,000 acres of lithium mining assets. And now we're putting our own technology down there to start producing lithium. We're doing the same thing in the Smackover in Texas and Arkansas and developing our second project. So soon we'll be developing these projects and selling lithium into the market, as well as licensing our technology to other lithium producers.
And how would you, I mean, if you're selling me, since I'm a shareholder in a lithium brine company, what's your sales advantage over the existing DLE that's out there? Because trust me, I know there's at least one DLE company because we own one up in Alberta, a processing plant. So what's your main? Is it less cost to do? Do I get more lithium out of it? Give me the spiel.
What's the value proposition?
Yeah,
the value proposition. This is buy, hold, sell, right?
Yeah.
So you know, there's a handful of lithium extraction companies or DLE companies that are also developing technology, right? What we did early on is we said, essentially, we want to be an agnostic, like I have no horse in which technology is the winning technology, right? So what we went out and did was we developed all the technologies that people are trying to work on. So membranes, adsorption technology, solvent extraction technology, and we developed all of these pillars of technology. And what we realized was after we did this, that when you combine them together, that's actually how you create an end-to-end solution that is a complete solution for the customer. So if, you know, Tobin, you suggested that you're an investor in Lithium Bank, right? That owns an asset up in Canada. If they went out and found a DLE technology that was just one piece of this kind of process flow sheet or the whole refinery that was on the front end, then Lithium Bank would still have to go figure out steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 to create the finished lithium product that they could go sell.
To put it on an open bed train and send it to Detroit, Michigan.
Because we have developed multiple technologies and created a DLE platform, we provide the entire end-to-end solution for our customers that we will license to. And what that has ended up doing is making us the lowest cost provider. So at the end of the day, lithium is a commodity, and we're the lowest cost provider that can sell lithium or give our technology at the lowest cost, which enables Lithium Bank to put the lithium on the train and ship it to Detroit for the lowest cost, so they can pass through that cost savings. And that's why we're the best ultimately.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
So
go ahead, Todd.
Okay, the 90,000 acres in Chile that you were talking about. What do you do? And this is where the stupid question comes in. What do you do with the 90,000 acres? I mean, do you take all of your machinery down? I mean, can you explain to me, at least, maybe the audience knows this, but what are you doing with the 90,000 acres?
Yeah, so the lithium is in the brine. It's a salt that's in the brine underground.
Okay.
So on that 90,000 acres, we'll go drill a few holes, and that's where we bring the brine up. And then once the brine is on the surface, we'll pipe it to the lithium refinery, where we'll extract the lithium out of the water, essentially, the brine. And then that leftover lithium depleted brine will be re-injected back into the ground so we don't disturb the water table and the surrounding ecosystem. And then we'll have the lithium. So that 90,000 acres, our estimated resource is about 5 million tons of lithium.
So what's the value of 5 million tons of lithium?
Oh man, it's a lot. No.
We have a very hardcore show here, Teague. It's a lot. It's not the right answer.
I mean, if I'm
Get
an
your
investor,
calculator out, SC boy, and figure out 5 million tons.
You have to give me an exact number.
Let's say that lithium is going for $15,000 a ton right now.
Oh wow. Okay.
5 million tons of lithium equates to about $75 billion. Now, let me preface and say that we can only extract about 50% of that 5 million tons, because when you drill a hole, you can't suck out or pump out all of the brine. So
otherwise the resource will collapse.
Right. So you can only get about 50% of the brine out, right? So now you're at 2.5 million tons. And then most DLE companies say that they can recover about 90% of the lithium. Because remember, the lithium is a very small percentage of salt that's dissolved into this brine. So then we put that 90% onto what we're at, 2.5 million times 90%. So say
don't hurt yourself, Teague. Don't hurt yourself.
2.2 million, something around. And then we want to say the life of this mine will be somewhere between 20 and 40 years. So in Chile, we're building a 40,000 ton per year project. Wow. So every year we'll produce 40,000 tons. And if lithium is at $20,000 a ton, which is our long-term estimation, you're looking at 800 million of revenue from that project.
Just that project alone.
Just that project.
That's incredible. So how many right now? I mean, you have the one there, and you mentioned Texas. I mean, how do you, I mean, I assume the land has to have some saltwater component. I mean, do you look worldwide, or how do you find the land that you're looking to drill into?
Yeah, I mean, that's the exploration part, right? So we've recently got into that exploration part. We made our first acquisition in Chile. In Texas.
This is a leasehold, right? This is a leasehold, not a physical ownership of the land. You have a long-term lease.
Correct. So it varies depending on geography. Like in Chile, we own the mining tenements. Up in the Smackover in Texas and Arkansas, we're leasing the mineral rights. And up here for our project, which is called Project Lone Star, that plan is going to be a 25,000 ton per annum project, with obviously the ability to expand once we finish the first 25,000, just as we planned for the 40,000 in Chile to expand. But right now we're looking at 40,000 in Chile, 25,000 tons in Smackover.
So whereabouts in Texas is this?
So it's in the Ark-La-Tex area, which is Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas.
Okay.
It's right, Todd. It's right up in a smack between all three of them.
Yeah. Okay.
It is. It's not the Panhandle. Don't call it the Panhandle. It's
Right.
it's
So
the smack.
Exxon just purchased about 100,000 acres.
Okay.
Or they got the lease for 100,000 acres in Arkansas. We're looking right around that area. You know, we were actually looking at that land before Exxon got it. We didn't have that type of money back then. I wish we did, but you know, the good thing about this is that the reason that I'm still willing to license our technology to other players that could be thought of as competitors is because the demand of lithium is so much greater than the supply.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and to put numbers around that, this year, the annual production of lithium will be around 700,000 tons per year, right? And we talked about our 40,000 ton project, our 25,000 ton project. By 2040, that's 5.5 million tons.
Wow. That's incredible.
So,
hey, Teague, well, speaking of money, how much have you raised? And then how much you're going to have to raise in the next raise? Because if you're doing all this stuff, dude, there's a lot of capital intensivity here.
Yeah.
so far we've raised over 100 million in equity.
Okay.
And then we also have a $450 million commitment for equity once we go public. Obviously, we're not public. I talked about that. We're still a private company. And we probably don't plan to go public until we're commercially producing lithium.
Which is a good idea.
The strategy right now.
Yeah.
And then we do have a few really exciting things in the pipeline and some LOIs that are signed that I can't yet talk about.
Letters of intent, ladies and gentlemen. They're not liars. They're not liars. They're letters of intent, which means is that the large company has said, here's the terms of which we would potentially invest with you, and our intent is to do that. So just so people know the jargon.
But yeah,
So-
100 million is what we've raised so far.
Okay, wow.
So you're
Congratulations.
you're working with a couple of bankers, probably a couple of big firms out of Wall Street. So what's the appetite like? I mean, when you go to these roadshows and you're having these meetings, does everybody understand it, or are they just on the edge of their seat saying, I got to get involved with this? Or do you have to do a lot of educating to try to bring people to the table?
You know, that's a good question. It's half and half. People, sophisticated investors, intimately understand lithium and the supply chain need. Like, that's really where sophisticated investors spend the most of their time, in the picks and shovels, the supply chain of these big macroeconomic themes.
Yeah.
Right. The education part comes in where we have to discuss the technology and why EnergyX is different, and really the science that we've developed in order to address that supply chain need. Right. Like Toby said, why is our technology different, or what's the value proposition, right? That is really the education part. But the macroeconomic theme in lithium, and the supply chain and the supply demand gap, that's very, very well understood.
Okay. I like it.
Todd,
Toby, write your checkbook. Get your checkbook out.
Todd, you have to understand that 3 years ago, lithium was selling for 3 times or 4 times what it's selling for today. So there was a wild, crazy, V-shaped price increase because it was scarce, and people had made commitments they were going to make these batteries, and without the lithium, they couldn't make the batteries. And so, a lot of low supply, high demand. What happens to prices? Conversely, tell us in the last year, Teague, or so, how far the prices come down, and has it found a sort of a level where everybody can still make money?
Yeah, that's a great point. So when I got into lithium, it was somewhere in the 12, like we talk about this on a per ton basis, right? How much does it cost to buy 1 ton of lithium? And to put that into perspective, you can make about 14 cars from 1 ton of lithium.
Yeah, that's a good metric.
Roughly 70 kilograms of lithium carbonate equivalent goes into 1 car, or 1 car's battery, right? So on a per ton basis, when I got into the lithium game back in 2018, it was approximately $12,000–$15,000 a ton, right? It went up a little bit, went down. All commodities are cyclical, and there's ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then in 2021, 2022, there was a crazy run on lithium. And basically every single major auto manufacturer all at once pledged to moving to electrification. And lithium shot up to $80,000.
80,000 ton, yeah.
And to be honest, that is prohibitive for the lithium industry and the entire electric vehicle industry, because electric vehicle makers have to they can't afford to eat that cost. They have to pass that cost on to the consumer. And ultimately that would make the price of electric vehicles too expensive for the average consumer. So that really wasn't good for the lithium industry. So it's since come back down, and it was at 20,000. Now it's about 15,000. So it's back to reasonable levels. But as you think about that in the context of investing, today is a really good time to invest, because obviously we see that going back up again, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully not to 80,000, but our long-term projections are somewhere between 20 and 30,000. But more importantly, the long-term demand is there, right? So for us, building these facilities that produce 40,000 tons a year, it's just about producing that and selling it, because obviously it costs us a lot less to make, because we've developed the most economical technology.
Well, right. And Todd, remember that when the IRA was passed, so much cracks me up. It's not the IRA, but this investable resource allocation deal that they did for EVs. The stipulation was that all the ingredients had to come from a North American supplier. And frankly, I'd forgotten that Chile qualified because of the treaty that we have.
Yeah.
So there was limited places. There's a lot of other places you can go. China's got a shit ton. That's a very technical term, of lithium. And there's other parts of the world that have a lot of lithium, but it doesn't matter, because most batteries, and certainly Tesla and certainly the other big buyers, are to qualify for these tax credits. You had to have, it was a $7,500 tax credit if you bought I was just shopping for electric vehicle yesterday, and that's $7,500. If you lease the thing, that cash money goes against the corpus, the price of the car, and it would take a lease down, like for somebody like me who drives like 50 miles a month, to nothing. So It really makes a big difference. But it's got to be certified. Lithium has to be certified, graphite for that matter. We're an investor in a company called Lamico Metals that is selling to Nouveau Monde, which has a very large graphite location up in Quebec de Canada. But their entire market is going to General Motors, their entire supply. I mean, it's something.
Wow.
Yeah. So to add on to that point, the IRA says that a certain percentage of the vehicle's battery needs to be sourced either domestically or free trade partners, right?
Free trade partners.
So all of the big US auto manufacturers are following that religiously in order to get that $7,500 tax credit for their consumer, because you made the perfect point, Toby. You're not going to go, but if it's apples to apples and one has the $7,500 tax credit and one doesn't, which one are you going to choose?
I don't know. It's a difficult decision, Teague.
I know, very, very difficult.
Very, very difficult.
So all the US auto manufacturers are making sure that their vehicles are compliant, and being compliant means sourcing within the US or free trade partners. So that's a major reason why General Motors invested in us, because they want to source that lithium from somewhere that follows that compliance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I tell you, it's very intriguing that you could do it for $1,000, group fundraising platform into a company of yours that is this developed. So then the next question is, big boy, when do you start pulling the lithium out of the ground and selling it? What's your timetable?
Hopefully very soon. So
wrong answer. A little better. Come on, let's go.
We're building our demonstration plants, right? That's the last step before we build commercial plants. You have to realize that these commercial plants costs hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be right. You can't, the technology you can't go from bench scale, like in the laboratory,
Yeah.
to spending hundreds of millions of dollars. We've taken very methodical scaling steps where everything we do is tested in the laboratory, then it's tested on pilot scale, then it's tested on demonstration scale, then it's tested and done in full commercial mode,
For
right?
commercial.
So we're planning our first commercial train to be in 2027. And you know, we're accelerating as fast as possible, right? Like, I really like to think about the Elon approach, where if you give yourself 6 years to do something, it'll take 6 years. If you give yourself 6 months, you might not accomplish it in 6 months, but you'll get a hell of a lot further than if you gave yourself 6 years, right? So we're accelerating as fast as possible towards commercialization, and 2027 is the goal.
That's great. That's great.
And Tesla is not an investor. I'm sorry, I may have missed that. They're not in your, or you have an LOI from them.
No, we don't. We don't. General Motors is the investor.
They became the exclusive.
Our chosen electric vehicle partner.
Yeah.
They believed in us early on, and we're going to be loyal to them. That's how I work. He's very important. So not to say that we would never work with Tesla, but General Motors has kind of that first seat as we produce lithium. Yeah.
Well, it is amazing. What is your current valuation?
So currently we're selling shares at $9.50 a share.
So what does that mean for the total value market cap of the company?
The total valuation of the company is around $700 to $800 million.
Okay.
Oh, whoa, that's amazing. That's great.
God, it's extraction of shit out of the ground.
It's
an
incredible.
expensive business.
It is expensive, but I gotta say that's wonderful. That's a great. That's a great story.
So people who got in at a $50 million or $70 million market cap are sitting on those 10x gains.
Yeah. The first time we raised capital was around 62 million. So those people have over 10x their money.
Wow, incredible! That's a wonderful story. It's
an
American success story.
I would never thought crowdfunding for a lithium technology and then producer. And what platform was that on, by the way, or is it still on?
It's all through our website.
Oh, okay.
There you go. And speaking of which, if you want to be an investor, you go to invest.energyx.com. I got that right, Teague, right? On the investment side? Okay, but on the corporate side, energyx.com, if you want to learn more. These guys are the category killers in this space. You definitely want to check it out. We're going to leave it there, though, everyone.
Teague, now he's an expert. A half an hour now.
You guys are both experts.
You need to know about lithium. That is Todd Schoenberger, right to the T.
He answered my questions. Now I'm a subject matter expert. So give me a call. I'll answer everything. No, don't give me a call.
Please don't call.
Don't call me. Call Toby.
No, please don't call me.
So Teague, thanks again. Thank you so much for joining us today on Buy, Hold, Sell. We got to get you back, though, later on after you have a couple of these, you're raising some more money and where you guys stand. We definitely would love to have you back on the show.
I'd love to, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So on behalf of Teague Egan and Tobin Smith, I am Todd Schoenberger. Thank you once again for joining us on Buy, Hold, Sell. Catch us next week. We're going to have Jay Hatfield. He's returning to the show. He's going to tell us if this Trump rally will continue for the rest of the summer. But we'll catch you then. Thank you again. Take care.
Buy, Hold, Sell, brought to you by CrossCheck Management.
I want you to smash that like button.